Hey, Queen. I'm Vieira Miles, and this is the Holistic Sister Circle podcast, a show where we hear the stories of soulful women all over the world dedicated to sharing insight into why holistic health is the future and what women should do today to ensure they have the necessary tools and resources to bring out their inner royal roots, assess their body, and remedy any illness from the comfort of their home. Y'all, we are setting the royal record straight, okay? If you'd like to connect with us further, you can follow us at The Holistic Sister Circle on Instagram and join the Holistic Sister Circle Facebook group for live interviews, collaborative Q&A, and exclusive training on how to build your wellness dream team. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. See you on the other side. Welcome to another episode of the Holistic Sister Circle. Today we have Patrice with us, and she is a pioneer in women's health, serving as the first certified menopause wellness coach in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. As founder of Menopause Survival Care, she leads a mission to empower women through education, support, and solutions for managing the often overlooked transition of menopause. Patrice, I'm so grateful to have you here. Welcome to the circle.
Thank you so much, and I'm happy to be here as well.
You're welcome. Absolutely. So to start us off, first of all, I have never had anyone speak from the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Can you actually share what, like, a majority of your clients in that area as well? Or how do you typically connect with everyone?
Well, my clients are in the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and the USA. Initially, because of the World Wide Web, we have become one small little world now. But predominantly, most of my people are in the Bahamas. I service the Bahamas and the Caribbean. And I also have a private Facebook menopause group that has women from all over the world, from the USA, the UK, the Caribbean, the Philippines, Dubai, Africa. And I can tell you one thing I've learned: menopause is menopause, no matter where you are.
Yes, that is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did you get started with just specifically menopause? Why menopause? I mean, there's so many things in women's health, but why menopause?
It's what I was called to do. I promise you, I didn't pick it. When I first, I got into menopause because of my experience. When I went into menopause, I didn't know. I had started to have sleep issues. I was putting on weight and dealing with anxiety. It got to a point where I was dealing with sleep issues for a year. And then it got to 6 weeks. I was sleeping for under an hour. And at this point, another hour to now, and at this point, my brain was just doing crazy things. When I would shut my eyes, I would see what would look like the old black and white television screen lights, and I'd see bits and pieces of a movie. And for 6 weeks, for under an hour to an hour, when I closed my eyes, that's all I saw. Then that turned into day, then night, then day, then night, then day and night. 3 days and 3 nights with not a wink of sleep. I was wired. I didn't know what was going on. And at this point, I was also dealing with a lot of rejection. And there was a lot of pain there as well to add on top of everything else. And literally, a family member, I had to ask for help, and a family member came and took me out of my home. And she worked at the local hospital, and she cared for me for 2 weeks. I was completely lost. I didn't know what was going on. And that began a journey for me because when I got my sister-in-law. It was like the third day of not a wink of sleep. And by this time, my body was doing everything you can imagine that was crazy. Nothing was coordinated. Nothing was making sense in life at this point for me. And I remember my sister-in-law looking in my eyes and saying, Patrice, do you understand what happens when you stop sleeping? She said, your organs are going to start shutting down. And she's a lab technician at the hospital, and she had wanted me to go to the hospital, and I kept on saying all I needed to do was sleep. And it wasn't until that third night I had a very horrendous experience, and then I got up and told her I would go to the hospital. And it was that night she took me to the hospital, and I wanted to sleep so badly. It was like a drug. I was when the doctor came and they were dealing with me, I kept on asking, please give me something to sleep, make me sleep, make me sleep. Um, it was, I wouldn't wish it on anybody when you stop sleeping. And at that point, they examined me and they were asking me a lot of questions. And I just kept on saying, I just need to sleep. I just need to sleep. And they pulled my sister-in-law aside and they spoke with her. And then she came back to me and said, the doctors are saying nothing's wrong with you physically. They want you to see the psychiatrist. I looked at her and I said, can this doctor make me sleep? She said, yes. When she said yes, I said, yes, I'll do it. I will go. And they admitted me. It was the most horrendous experience of my life. I will never forget that night. I slept in that place. And when they brought me before a bunch of psychiatrists and psychologists, they had me in this room. They asked me a lot of questions. And they deemed that nothing was wrong with me emotionally or psychologically, let her go home. And so I was discharged with the medical doctors saying there's nothing wrong with me, with the psychiatrist saying she's fine, nothing's wrong with her. Yet I wasn't sleeping, I was putting on weight, and I was dealing with anxiety. This went on. I went to doctors upon doctors. No one could help me. I even got to a place where I started having heart palpitations so terribly. At one point, the doctors had thought I had had a heart attack. So that was another journey. But 8 years into the journey, I thought I was going to die in the middle of the night. So I called a girlfriend, very afraid. And after I explained to her what was going on, she said to me, Patrice, I don't know why you don't accept the fact that you're perimenopausal. When she said that, I stopped and everything was quiet because I was reading every piece of literature there was. I was praying, begging for help. And the literature was saying, online was saying that I was perimenopausal. But in my mind, I thought menopause only happened to older or old women. That began a journey for me. And with the help of God, I went on a journey to help myself become my own rescue because no doctor was helping me. And one of the first things I was able to get rid of was the heart palpitations. Um, and it escalated from me asking questions, no finding out that it was normal, and trying to find out, well, if it's normal, why aren't people talking about it? And that began my journey. And eventually I decided to study to become a menopause health and wellness coach. And I'm the first one here in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. And I studied in the UK.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And first, I want to thank you for just going the extra mile. You know, there's so many people that think, okay, I'm just going to just keep going to different doctors and seeing what they tell me, but you took that and you ran with it and you allowed that to be your pilot and your step forward as you moved through this transition, trying to figure out what would make the most sense for you. So I applaud you for doing that. That's incredible.
Thank you. It was a difficult journey, I will tell you. It wasn't easy. It was a very lonely journey. I spent many days and nights crying and crying, thinking I'm going to die, with my heart doing the things it was doing. When I was having heart palpitations, I was having breathing problems. I was very weak. And in fact, when the doctors had thought I had had a heart attack, and eventually the test came back to show I didn't, I wanted to travel to be with my daughter. They wouldn't even let me travel because they felt my heart couldn't take it. And when I did, over a week, maybe a week and a half or so afterwards, when I traveled, it was still a very difficult time. And there was even a moment I thought I was in my daughter's bed and I prayed. I had a horrible session again, and I kept on praying, don't let me die in my daughter's bed. Don't let her meet me dead. She would not be able to handle it. So it really was a very lonely and difficult road. And it
Oh
has
my
made me
gosh.
committed to being there for women.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine.
Ah, yeah.
Wow. Wow. How did your family just react to everything that you were going through? How were they able to support
When
you?
initially I was in a marriage and I didn't get the support, which made it so horrible. That's why a family member literally came and had to take me out of my home to help me. That was very difficult. Um, and even after I got past that phase, going to the doctors, I was alone because I didn't have the support. And the thing was, I was living on one of the islands, not where I was born. My family was on another island, and I had moved to the second city of the Bahamas. And so my family that I grew up with was not there. Um, it was a lonely road, can I tell you? Eventually, I came back home and saw more doctors and heard more tales from the doctors telling me they don't know what happened to me, why it happened. I got addicted to sleeping pills at one point, and the doctor wanted to put me on antidepressants, and I was very respectful. But I thought in my head, do I look depressed to you? I need to sleep, but I'm not depressed. And then him telling me he doesn't know why it happens to women. The same thing is happening to his mom. And I remember looking at him thinking, is this why I'm paying you? I mean, I'm sorry about what's going on with your mom, but I'm looking for answers. And for 8 years, I didn't get any answers. And I didn't know that it was menopause. I didn't know that menopause affects women physically, emotionally, and mentally. I didn't know that. And when I did learn about menopause, I began to dig real deep. And in fact, one of the things I did was, somebody had said, "Why don't you ask the girls you went to school with?" We have a group chat, and there were over 75 of the women, and at this point, everybody was all over the world. And when I put it, I was very vulnerable, and I put it in the chat what was going on with me. And I wanted to know if anybody was experiencing these things. That day, our women's chat blew up. Over 50 something women from morning till night. Everybody was talking about their experience and what was happening with them. And I remember the first thing was being relieved, because it's like, okay, so I'm not alone. This is something other people are experiencing. But then I was I couldn't understand why, if this is normal, why didn't I hear about this before? Why didn't anybody tell me about this before? Why didn't my mom tell me about menopause? And it caused me to start going to older women and asking questions. I would be in the beauty salon and I would be the one who would cause these menopause conversations with these older women. And I would ask, so why are women not, why? And they would tell me how women are embarrassed. And it just blew me. And the more secretive I found menopause to be and a taboo, the deeper I dug and the more it made me want to be a solution.
Mm, absolutely. I can't even imagine, but one of the things that I'm super grateful for is that again, you didn't take it and have this victim mindset with it. It's like
Yes,
you were like, okay, we need to find solutions. We have a problem here,
yeah,
and I am going to stand up and be the change that I actually want to see in the world, which is so incredible. And
yes.
I can't believe, you had to wait 8 years to figure this out, which is so crazy. Now,
Painful.
right. From the clients that, I mean, the women that you've helped, the women that have been inspired and empowered for what you've been sharing with them and really being able to help them, have you noticed any differences or similarities in their body's responses to going through menopause?
Most certainly. One of the things that I teach women, as long as you are a female, every one of us as little girls, we came into this world with what I call a basket of eggs. And during puberty, there's a hormone, a powerful estrogen hormone called estradiol that kicked in that caused us to be able to have a period every month, to have breasts and whatnot. And I use this little story with women. I tell women, now, estradiol had a conversation with you when you went into puberty. And what estradiol said to you, Vivar, is that, you know what? I'm going to help you use up these eggs because I cannot let you go back to God with these eggs. But I'm only going to stay with you for a season. When you get to about 8 to 10 years of eggs left, I'm going to start leaving. That season is called perimenopause. That happens basically around early 40s. Most of us don't even know when our bodies kick into that last 8 to 10 years. I remember for me, I didn't realize it until I was studying. And then I remember in one of my sessions, I remembered my period came on consistently all the time. And I remember it started to move from the beginning to the middle of the month. And my period was just always consistent. And I remember thinking, and this was about maybe 41 or so, that's interesting, but I didn't think anything of it. In retrospect, I understood now then that my body kicked into that last 8 to 10 years of eggs that I had left. And I went into the perimenopause transition. And for me, because I was going through a lot, stress triggered my menopausal transition. And one of the things I tell women is that stress is not a friend of a woman during menopause. So I teach women that we have to understand that menopause is a natural transition in a woman's life. No, every woman does not get to have severe symptoms, but your body will go through a transition. Your body will go through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And because the symptoms are so many, and it's because this powerful form of estrogen called estradiol has been so powerful and helping our body to function from puberty until the the estradiol begins to decline during perimenopause, we are so affected. It impacts our brain. That's why women deal with issues with memory fog, forgetfulness, or irritability, or lack of sleep, or hot flashes, or dizziness, or nausea. Um, all of those are neurological symptoms. The brain has been support various parts of the brain has been supported by estradiol. Um, Even our joints are impacted. For a lot of women, that their digestive system is impacted. The skin, women deal with dryness and can't figure out why their skin is so dry. Um, and one of the things that I talk a lot about, because women like to hide it, our vaginas are impacted. Women deal with vaginal dryness, itching, burning. They lose their sexual drive. They find that they're running to the bathroom all the time. And even before you get to the bathroom, you start to wet yourself. There's so many areas of this body that is impacted because of this powerful form of estrogen has declined. And then when we go into menopause and post, we're finished. We no longer have that powerful form of estrogen doing what it used to do in the body.
Wow, this is so incredible. Now, I have two questions for you. The first
Mhm.
one is, how can we make sure as women that we're not getting to perimenopause too early?
There, okay. There are a couple of things that would make a woman go into what we call early menopause. One, sometimes women have a hysterectomy, whether you have a partial or full hysterectomy, that can cause a woman to go into early menopause. Some women, they have PCOS, their ovaries aren't functioning properly. So that would cause women to go into early menopause. Um, then we have from the medical menopause to the surgical menopause. And then we have some women genetically, because their families, they are from a family of women who end early. Now, in modern day, we have early menopause with young girls who become transgenders, who take out their ovaries and their uterus because they identify as male. And so now, in modern day, we're seeing young girls who do that go into menopause.
Wow.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know it was like that for transgenders. Lord. Okay. Okay. So my second question is, for those who are currently experiencing these symptoms, what would you recommend that they do to at least be comforted during this time? Like, what are some simple things that they can do to at least get them
Okay.
started?
One of the things I tell women is to educate yourself. My book, Menopause is Metamorphosis, What the Butterfly Knew, will be out on August 29th. And what I do is I help women to understand menopause. Our problem is that we've not been educated about menopause. And in my book, what I did was I went into the ancient times, and I was able to see how the various cultures looked at menopause. And it wasn't until the latter 16th century, when the British Empire took ruled the world, that menopause became a thing where Hippocrates, who is the father of medicine, they saw menopause differently, as something was wrong with a woman's ovaries at one point. Then we had, and that was in the early 1500s, and then we had from 16 to 1800, we had another set of thinking. They were thinking that they used to put women in mental sanitariums because women were They saw it as they were losing their minds during this time, and they saw women as useless when they couldn't reproduce. The history is interesting, and I do a history up until 2025, where we are today. And the reason I've learned and I understand that we are in a generation that's now learning about menopause, of women who are now learning about menopause, is because of the legacy that was passed down to us, a legacy of shame, embarrassment, and taboo. Male doctors didn't think women, were worth a lot. Except it is crazy. So women, interestingly enough, we are the women, this generation, we are the women throughout the first in history who's finally talking about menopause. And so, what I tell women, the first thing is we need to educate ourselves. I promise you, we do not understand menopause. We do not. And what's happening now, and why I am so passionate about menopause as metamorphosis as a movement, is that right now, all we are doing is talking about the negatives of menopause. When I say the negatives, I'm talking about the symptoms, and I'm not denying the symptoms can be horrible. I can tell you that much. But in my book that educates women, that's why I wrote it, because we are so missing. My book invites the readers to see menopause not as a ending or a loss, but as a divinely designed transformation. It's a transition, it's a becoming. And like I said, I explore historically how menopause was misunderstood and medicalized. Oh my goodness. I mean, women were being given ovaries and crushed testicles of animals. There were so many things that were being done trying to figure out this thing about menopause once we got into the 16th, the early 16th century. And what my book does is it shows parallels from nature, when nature shows that when we go through transitions and change and cycles, it's never for punishment or loss, but it's to take you higher. It's taking you to another level. When we look at the caterpillar crawling on its belly, um, and then it goes into this cocoon, and science shows how parts of it dissolve. And just when the caterpillar thought life had ended, it emerges as a beautiful winged creature that can fly. And nature teaches us that transformation happens, but it's costly. And many menopausal women, once they get to that postmenopause stage, and I'm finding this all over, these women are at the point where they know who they are. They've made certain decisions. They want to do what has been in them for a very long time. They're not taking a lot of things that they used to anymore. They're more firm in their foundations, etc. And it aligns with the fact that the body is no longer dealing with the burden of of fertility. Every month, the changes every month. No, and that estrogen also has a lot to do with the emotions, estrogen and progesterone. And as the woman goes into this phase, this post-menopause and post-menopause phase, Dr. Lisa Mosconi said it so well. She is the first neuroscientist who did research and did imaging of a woman's brain before and after. And literally, and of course, now we have a number of neuroscientists male scientists who have said now they understand that women really were it was true what they're saying. And when I read stuff like that, I'm like, wow, Women are suffering all this time, and you won't believe them because you're not walking in their shoes. But that's another story. But one of the things that Dr. Lisa Mosconi has discovered and scientists see is that our brain goes through a transition. And what happens, it's like a shedding. It's like a shedding. And by the time a woman gets into this of the postmenopause, a lot of, for lack of a better word, weight has been dropped. And her brain goes into this um, more creative, artistic mode, wisdom mode. And it is crazy, the research. And then in my book, I draw the analogy of what scripture says about the older woman because it's so in line. And then I draw the analogies of the various cultures from the African, the ancient African, the Chinese, the the Indians and the Native Americans all saw this time in a woman's life as an upgrade. It is only during this time from the 1500s we've changed it. And my book goes into all of that. And what I do with menopause as a metamorphosis and what the butterfly knew is that this book it's more than a book. It's a map back to ourselves as women. It's a window into a forgotten truth, and it's a sacred invitation for women to rise again. This time is a time of power, walking in who you are, being mentors. It is an awesome responsibility naturally given to us as women when we walk into this season.
Wow, this is so incredible. How do we find your book? How do we learn more about you?
My book will be released on August 29th on Amazon. We will have the ebook as well as the paperback. And I'm encouraging, one of the things I'm committed to is I'm taking this message to women of the world throughout the entire world, Africa, Canada, the USA, the UK, everywhere, because I am convinced it is not an accident that we are the generation of women who are finally talking about menopause and we're free. And I believe that there is a great responsibility that lies on the shoulders of today's women because the women that are going to come behind us who are going through menopause, they're going to stand on our shoulders. So the information we pass down, the truth we have to pass down is so important because when we look at the ancient times and when we get into the 1500s, it got lost. And it was a change in, we had different eras in the world. And so it was a new world order, a new thinking. And I believe we are at that place, today's woman, to create a reality where we understand that menopause is not just a hormonal shift. It's also a soul's invitation for the woman to slow down, to listen to her body, and to prioritize what matters. Um,
Yes.
yes, it offers such a spiritual awakening. It does for the menopausal women. And I'm so blown away as I speak with women. And like I said, I've been connecting the dots. I've been going on this journey, speaking with women, speaking with my clients from all over. And it is so universal. As long as you are a woman, this is a divinely designed transition. but we must see it for what it is and not a narrow view.
This is so incredible, so impactful. Patrice,
Mhm.
thank you so much for sharing this. I'm so grateful. I mean, I didn't even know half of the things that we just talked about. So I can't wait to read the book to
Yes,
learn more, right? Uh,
yes.
and I'm
And
super
that,
excited about that for sure.
thank you. And I tell women, talk to your daughters, get the books for women are suffering in silence. And that's another thing. So share the book, get a book for a sister, and talk to our daughters. We have to talk to our daughters. The last generation of mothers, most of them didn't tell their daughters. So most of us came into it trying to figure out what's going on. So we have a heavy responsibility to educate ourselves, our daughters, our nieces, our little girls coming up, so that they cannot be blindsided and they would go into menopause more educated and more prepared.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this. This has been an amazing time, and I'm so grateful that you were able to share this with us tonight.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Until next time. Queen, thank you so much for tuning in. It truly warms our heart that you're taking the time out of your day to connect with us. If you'd like to connect with our guests further, you can find their information located in the description section of this episode. And if you found this episode helpful, share with another queen. And don't forget to connect with the Holistic Sister Circle on Instagram and Facebook. And until next week, stay blessed. Mwah.